Java is a fully object-oriented programming language. Of course, Java has many other features apart from object-oriented programming. For example, Java is platform independent. The code produced by Java is a platform, is not platform specific. It will work on all sort of platforms. Java is a multi-threaded programming language. Java is a highly secure programming language. Java is simpler than all the programming language you have come across. But today I will be not talking about those features. I will be confined only to the object-oriented features of Java programming language. So Java programming language, so in object-oriented programming, basically when we start writing programming object-oriented notations, the analysis of the program, designing of your program, coding of a program, testing, everything is done in terms of objects. So objects play a central role in object-oriented programming. Take any other programming language, let's say C++ or Java or any other programming language which supports object-oriented feature. So everything is circled, everything is centered around objects. For example, but in other programming language, let's say C and Pascal, everything is centered around the functional. So what we call that the C and Pascal programming language is based on functional decompositions. First, functional decompositions, all the analysis design of a program will be based on analysis, design, and everything is on the functional component. So function is an important component, or function is the basic component in C programming language. To become a programming language which supports object-oriented feature, they must support the following features. For example, the important features of object-oriented programming will be that they must support objects and classes. The second will be encapsulations. The third will be inheritance. The fourth will be dynamic binding, and so on. So all the important programming features any object-oriented programming language must support. Without this, the object-oriented programming language will not be accepted as a object-oriented programming language. Now let's talk about each of these features we are listed. Let's say objects, programming and classes, encapsulations, polymorphism in detail. Now, what are objects now? Objects are basically software programming models. So it contains variables and the methods. When we write a program in C language, all these two things are separated. But in object-oriented programming language, variables and methods which works on those variables are encapsulated in one package. Let's call them objects. The software objects are modeled after real-life objects. So that is the advantage. When object-oriented programming was designed, the basic objective was that one can develop a software in a similar way a hardware is designed. Today, design of a hardware is basically in hours. Within half an hour you can assemble one computer. You can bring one component from one place, another component from a different place, and simply combine them, and your project will be ready. Same way, software should be designed. I think the Java is going to meet the demand of a software developer, that the software development time should be reduced now. So the basic objective of Java programming language or any object-oriented programming language is that software development life cycle should be reduced now. And we'll talk about how the things can be done in Java. So when we say software objects, they are not there are two things there. When we say objects and the classes now, so software, one class can have number of objects. When we say that we say, for example, employee class, then I can create an instance of employee class. But right now we are talking about the objects only. So object is a package. You can say it is a unit which encapsulates the methods as well as variables, and they are always designed around the real life objects. Real life objects, for example, car is a real life object, the employee is a real life object, In software also, we are going to design around these real life objects. But when we write a program in C language, we don't consider them into terms of real life object. We always try to write a program in terms of function, but they are not real, they don't represent the real life objects. So you see graphically, the whole object can be represented in this form. You see this circle now, that within this circle we have an inner circle, and in this inner circle we have what we call them variables, and outside these variables we have methods. So this way I can design my objects. So object will have method 1 in this diagram. What I am showing you is that there one object which contains 2 methods, method 1 and method 2, and it contains 2 variables. Now let's see for example, let's see some examples of software objects. For example, you all have worked with graphic objects. You have worked with Windows 95, 98. These are the basic operating system. You always come with the screen which will contain lots of GUI components now. So all the GUI components you have worked, they all are basically software objects. For example, you have worked with the buttons, you have worked with the scroll bars, you have worked with the menu, you have worked with a spreadsheet. So there are a large number of examples one can think of software objects. So the button, we simply are not concerned how button has been designed. Button might be containing name, they might be containing something else. We have to simply understand how buttons is working. So one to work with the object, one has to know the basic interface through which one can call the buttons, or one can work with any GUI objects. All the real life objects can be characterized by 2 things. One is by state and second is called behavior. By state means, for example, take employee as a real life object. Each employee has got name, age, salary, experience. They all are called the state of the object. And the behavior is basically, for example, employee is earning, employee is sleeping, employee is reading, employee is doing something else. They all are basically will be treated as a behavior now. A software objects will be also characterized in a similar fashion. Like software object also has a state, software object also has a behavior. But how can we express the state of the software object? We have a variables. We have, for example, in Java programming or any other programming, we write int x. So x is a variable of data type int, and then behavior. Behavior, we have a how can we describe the behavior? In 2 ways we can do so. So we have, depending upon the programming language we have. Like in C language, you have a methods, you have a functions, you have a procedures, something like this. So behavior is basically expressed by methods, or what we call them functions. So software objects also have a similar characteristic as real life objects, and they are described by the variables. They might be the variables of built-in data types or variables of user-defined data types, and the number of functions and methods one has to include it to work on these variables. So now we'll talk about the class now. So we are talking about the first characteristics of object-oriented programming, and what I listed was that the objects and class is the first characteristics. Any object-oriented programming language must support object and class. Class is a software construct or software model that defines the instance variables and methods of an object. A class itself is not an object. For example, I can define that car is a class, and then let's say Maruti 800 is one object of this car. Then Maruti 1000 could be another object, Jane could be another object. So when we say class, we say basically define the general characteristics of all the objects. One class can have number of objects depending upon the need in your program. But the object itself is not a class. Object is an instance of a class, right? So sometimes say the like for example, in C language you define some structure, and then you define some variable of this structure. So unless you declare an object of the class, memory will not be allocated. In your program, you can declare a number of classes, but unless you declare instance of all these classes, your memory will not be allocated by the browser or the operating system. Then you will not be able to use them. So now, for example, let's be more precise now what we are talking about in terms of definition of a class. A class is a blueprint, or we say the template that defines the structure of similar objects. So if I can define employee as a class, then I am defining the structure or the template or blueprint of the all employees of a particular organization. They all will have a name, they all will have an age. So all the common characteristics of the class of the object will define into the class itself. And then we have a number, depending upon how many employees are working, I will create a number of objects in the class. So what we are talking about, that in object-oriented programming, everything is centered around the objects and classes. This is the first basic unit one has to come across, or one has to use them in the program. Whereas in C and Pascal, the basic unit is a function. So we say it's based on functional decomposition, whereas in object-oriented programming, is based on the object. So object is the smallest component one can think of, and all the variables are a method are not a standalone, they are part of the some objects or some classes. With all, so then what is the advantage of a class? Now the real advantage of the class is the modularity. Now your program is much more modular. Your program will be divided or will be in terms of only classes itself. So each model, when we say modular, means that each software object or a class is a self-contained unit. To work with this class, you don't need to know how this class has been designed, how this object has been designed. You have to know only few interfaces through which you will be invoking the services of the class. So your program will be much more modular because everything is encapsulated into a class itself. So the first advantage is the modularity. The second one is information hiding. Information hiding means that to work with this one, you don't need to know how this object or the class has been designed, whether it is array based or the linked list based or any other type of methodology has been used. You should know only few methods through which you can invoke the features of this class. So everything is hidden from you. Whereas if you define a structure or if you define a record in other conventional programming languages, everything is open to you. You know how things have been designed. But here in Java programming language, the class is something which you don't need to know. You can't use them unless you have a right to use them. So all the information is hidden from you. And the third one, that is most important thing, and object-oriented programming is important because of this one and what we are calling the reusability. Remember, first time I told you the real advantage of object-oriented programming is to reduce software development life cycle. Today what is happening is the hardware development is very fast. Every 18 months we are talking about new type of paradigm, and you see the rate which the hardware development is taking place. Pentiums and P2 and P3, all chips are coming very fast. But now we are not able to catch up the hardware development in terms of the we are not able to design the software so fast as the hardware development is taking place, because we didn't have the methodology, we didn't have the proper programming languages, and Java has been designed to meet this gap. Of course, Java is the internet programming language to exploit the internet, to make internet much more interactive. So far, most of the documents lying on the internet is static, you can't interact with them. So one of the important purpose of Java is to make much more interactive document lying on the internet. But the another advantage of the Java as an object-oriented programming language, and that the promise now software developers are already have felt it, that the development life cycle with Java as a programming language will be much more lesser than what one could have thought of or what one could have experienced with another programming languages now. The time is coming that you don't need to design from the scratch, and this is what we mean by reusability. Already something is available, then you can design based on that one. For example, I have to design a calculator. Let's say I want to design a software calculator. Now software calculator, to design a software calculator you require lots of GUI component. You require a text area, you require buttons, you might be requiring some other GUI component. Now all these components have been designed lying somewhere on the network. Simply you can pull down with your browser or other software packages, and simply can combine them the way you have been designing the hardware part of it. So reusability means that you don't need to design from the scratch, you simply use that existing classes, and based on that you build on another classes. Means one, if I have to design one class and some other class is there, if there is certain similarity between the new class which you are designing and the old class already designed, you simply extend certain features from that class and you can design your new class. This means reusability, and that is the important features of Java programming language. The another important concept of the in Java is that they support encapsulations. Encapsulation means that they basically, the two real advantage of encapsulation which are discussed in different context, in context of a class, is the modularity and information hiding. Encapsulation means they hide all the details. If you want to work with a particular class, you simply have to know few interfaces, don't need to know how the class has been designed. So we always say that in object or in class, the methods and the variables on which these methods are going to work are encapsulated. So basically boundary has been created. Nobody can use unless only authorized to it. And we'll show you with certain access modifier which will be coming a little bit later on. With those modifiers, you have a certain control over who is using what type of feature from the class. So encapsulation. The another important concept is what we call them polymorphism. Polymorphism means the same message sent to different objects result in behavior that is dependent on the nature of the object receiving the message. What exactly it means? This type of concept is used quite extensively in object-oriented programming. What exactly it means is that I have a different type of objects. One object draws circle, another object draws the rectangle, another object designs the ellipse. Now all are drawing something, but they draw different type of objects now. So if I pass the draw method to the circle, they will not draw a rectangle, they will draw circle. But if I pass same message draw method to rectangle, they will draw a rectangle. So which method, how it will work and how the object will behave with the same message, it will be done during the runtime, and that is important contribution of the Java. It's a very elegant design that you don't need to invent so many different methods. If many objects are doing the same type of task, drawing, but they are drawing in different way, same message name could be thought of. So same draw method going to one object behaving different way, going to another object doing something else. So which object will do what upon receiving the same message, it will all be done during the runtime, or what we call them dynamic binding. So polymorphism is another important feature of Java programming or any object-oriented programming which supports it, which makes program to design much more elegantly. The another is inheritance. Inheritance word that is made, I think I will tell you this is the most important features of Java programming language. Inheritance means it allows to define new classes and behavior based on existing classes to obtain code reusability and code organizations. So if you are writing a Java program, or if you are writing an object-oriented software development using any programming language which supports all these features, inheritance should be used. So unless you have inheritance features, you have not exploited the Java programming language advantages, because you have not used code reusability. And basic purpose of Java is that don't need to design everything from the scratch all the time. You always look around what is already developed, and always you try to design from the existing classes. And that feature which makes you code reusability is what we call the inheritance. In some language, Java supports you not multiple inheritance. Java supports only single inheritance, means one can inherit the characteristic from only one parent class, whereas C++ supports multiple inheritance, where one can inherit the feature from multiple classes. Now what exactly means inheritance? By inheritance means that I am inheriting, I am carrying same behavior and the state of the class, existing class, and adding something to it. Means that I am only adding those parts which is not there, but using all the things if it is there. This is called inheritance. So Java supports only single inheritance. What is we found that multiple inheritance make code much more complicated. So designing as well as conceptualizations of your whole program in terms of multiple inheritance becomes much more complicated. So Java is much more simpler than C because of this feature, because they don't support multiple inheritance. Of course, we have many other features, but that is another important feature. So this diagram shows you what exactly we mean by inheritance. So just in this case, on the top we have the employee. Employee is a generic class, and then we have a part-time employee. This could be another class. Then full-time employee is another class. Then consultant belongs to another class, and something like this. So what we have done, if I am working with so many classes in my program, I don't need to design a new class called full-time. Of course, it's a new class, but whatever characteristic employee is having, same characteristic full-time employee is having. They might be having less privilege or more privilege depending upon what type of employees. So only what it makes it different from the employee, I will put it here. Same thing, now in full-time employee category, we have a manager, we have an engineer, we have administrative staff. The manager might be having more capability, more features. So then those features will be added. But the advantage of a full-time employee or the features of a full-time employee will be inherited directly by managers also. Right? So like for example, you have a CL, number of CLs you can take, or ELs you can take, or all other privileges of what you have as a full-time employee you are directly inheriting, but manager has more responsibility, so those features will be added to it. They might be having more remunerations, those features will be added. So now what we are trying to explain to you is the code organizations is much more simpler, much more elegant, because you are not designing everything from the scratch everywhere. Always you are trying to inherit certain characteristics, and that is the beauty of a Java program or object-oriented program, that in fact you have to design like this. If you are not able to conceptualize in the inheritance form, then it means that you are not able to utilize the maximum capability of Java programming. On the top, what we call them base class always has to be a generic class, and all other classes will be try to inherit certain characteristics and keep on adding at each level as they proceed. Now so real advantage of inheritance is that the reduces software development time. This is what we are talking about. Software development has own life cycle. Many people think, our students think, that software development means doing the coding, doing the programming, and that notion you have to remove. Because when we say software development, one has to go through several life cycles. One has to analyze the problem, one has to design the problem in terms of various pseudocode, and then you have to do programming. So if the analysis part is very weak, if the design part is very weak, then again the programming will be not very optimal. So the programming will be optimal if the analysis and design has to be very optimal, and that you can do very well if you follow all the object-oriented features of the thing. So the real advantage, this is what the software developer is looking for. Today we have people are not able to meet the target because the development life cycle takes its own time, and we don't have a methodology to reduce the software development time, and Java is here to help you in this matter. There is another important thing, what we call them dynamic binding. Everything is controlled by the operating system. Let's see what exactly we are talking about. The object could come from anywhere, possibly across the networks. Not necessarily you are designing. When you are designing a Java, means you are basically part of the internet. You are part of the net. Today everything was confined to the single standalone machine, but now what we are talking about, we are confined to the net now. So we say internet is the computer. Right, this is the definitions we are talking about. So you can pull down something from the net. You need to be able to send a message to objects without having to know their specific type. At the time you write your code, it provides maximum flexibility while you program executing. What we are talking about is that you can pass a message to any object which you don't know how it has been designed. You know that this object is doing like this. For example, take another example which I am giving you. So for example, I design circle object, I design the rectangle object, but same draw message is being passed to all the objects, right? I don't know how the circle has been designed, I don't know how it has been designed, but which object will work in what way, that everything will be controlled during the dynamic binding. You will try to understand this concept from different angle. In C programming language, what we say sometimes we have a static memory allocations, and now we are talking about dynamic memory allocations. Means something is allocated by the compiler. means basically sometimes we can say it's a static binding, and something is done by the browser or by the operating system during the runtime. So this is what we call them dynamic binding. So dynamic binding has got lots of flexibility while writing a program. Of course, it's lots of overheads, but today we are talking about the program has to be much more flexible, so that you should not think everything at the compile time. Memory should be utilized properly. Your design should be very elegant. To have all these features in your program, dynamic binding must be supported, and Java really supports dynamic binding feature. Now, with all these basic backgrounds I have given you about what is object-oriented programming, how it is different from the conventional programming language, what are the important characteristics of a object-oriented programming, what are the advantages of all these characteristics, how it helps you to reduce software development life cycles and code reuse and organization. Let's move to how is basically what we call them, how it is declared now. Basically I'm talking about how Java supports the creations, declarations, and instantiating an object. Now let's try to be very specific to Java programming language. For example, we say now date tomorrow. Now come to the Java second part of my presentations now, how Java supports object-oriented programming. So now here is that this way now you have to learn how object is declared. This is the first thing you have to learn now. So this single statement shows how object is declared, created, and instantiated. Now in this case what we have seen is that we have declared tomorrow. Whenever something we write with the capital means it is a predefined class. So I have tomorrow, so tomorrow is an instance of a class date, and then memory is allocated like this. When you write new date, new is a basically operator which allocates the memory dynamically, and then date is basically another constructor. So each class has got certain constructor. The constructors is the name of the method within the same class with the same name as class name. So now just in this case, date is the class name and date is a method with the same name, does not return anything. It might contain some arguments. So what we are talking about is that tomorrow is an instance of a class date. So tomorrow is an object, but unless you use new and this one, your memory will be not be allocated. Now, so I have created one object called tomorrow. If I have to declare another object, let's say today, I will write date today, new date. So date is a constructor, is a method to initialize an object. So whenever you are allocating a object, you have to initialize them. In this case, I don't have anything, so I have not put anything. But you can initialize your object with different types of arguments. So one class can have a number of constructors, number of methods, and each method will be different from another method in terms of how you want to initialize them, right? So in this case, I have created an object, allocated memory, but didn't initialize with any value.